last year from his phone,
right.
from his iPhone. He was at a conference, and so really happy to have him back in person.
Thank you.
Darren.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, good morning, and thanks for letting me spend a few minutes with everybody. Just show of hands, so we spoke before, but quick show of hands, how many people here are trying to be a CEO founder versus work in a people ops group? So founders, and then everybody else pretty much works in a big enterprise. HR analytics? No? How many people are HR analytics? Rest are just business? Business management. Okay, cool. This way. So I want to kind of kick this off by saying, just brought one slide. I just kind of built it on the computer as well. I think this is the big essence of what I hope everyone takes out of my time with you today is really is the CHRO's obligation to employees and shareholders and how that's now changing with data. So we're going to kind of wind you through this story. My name is Darren Kaplan. I am co-founder of a people analytics company named HiQ Labs. We are venture-backed, based out in San Francisco and in New York City. Been around for about 3 years. Our business model was to help companies use data to better understand their workforce. And when we looked at the HR technology landscape, when we started our company, at least for our company, we looked at HR, and maybe this can also help you as you're kind of going to get through your business mindset, is we looked at HR as kind of two problems. One problem is the employee problem, and we just kind of put everything into like you're an employee or you're an applicant. And then once we separated the world into those two kind of buckets, it was really a lot easier for us to look at which problems we want to solve. And when we looked at applicant problems, we felt that that space was super crowded. There's a lot of companies doing pipelining, recruiting, jobs, resumes. Then when we looked at employee problems, we really thought there was maybe 5 places you had to play with, and that was like Workday, SAP, Taleo, SuccessFactors, I don't know, you can call it connects the brass ring. So we looked at how can you improve some of those experiences inside the applicant databases. So that's kind of where we started. And what's interesting is when we started just a few years ago, at least in Silicon Valley time, when we was trying to recruit talent for our company, and you'd go on LinkedIn, you search for people analytics, the only people that come up on people analytics were like a handful of Googlers. So it's really nice to see is how that trend is really increasing, how a lot of people now are adding that to their title. Some of them are not maybe strong data scientists, but it's a title that they want to hear. That gives you a little bit of background on us. We work with enterprise customers. Our sweet spot are knowledge workers. So when we're using data for our customers, the data and the employees that we're solving and trying to work with are knowledge-based workers. So we want to help a company understand their, let's call it, director of mobile strategy versus call center. We want to help them understand their director of finance versus their barista. So our structure has always been knowledge work-based. So what I want to talk to you about today is now higher level than this, not what we do, but where the space is going, and it's really the pressure that's going to be put on the CHROs. So there's a lot of data out there, both inside the organization in their applicant tracking system and then outside the organization. Think of places that you know, where you put your profile, where you put your comments about your organization or your employer, where they put anything even about from commute to team to project to work. So there's all of this data going on right now, and the CHROs are really getting pressed to understand that data, not just to engage employees, but also for shareholder value, which is the easiest way for people in that C-suite to lose their jobs sometime, is just not understanding why key talent are leaving and comp things. So if we can hone everything we do towards the CHRO's priorities, a few things happen. Budgets will come, work will follow, and then of course happy employees will lag through as well. So when you think about your journey in this, I think the first thing you have to understand is why we call it their obligation. So now let's kind of go through some things that we're seeing in the space, and I figured to kind of talk through at a macro level, some trends that we're seeing, and then I thought it would be a good way to kind of go into a quick conversation. So first thing that we're seeing as big trends is that people teams are of course being added with strong science backgrounds. So that's a really great delight. The challenge with any great science is data. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all data is great, it's clean, it still has to be cleaned up. But you're going to have a scientist that's going to be looking at the data. And then that data, they're going to be looking at problems. So through the coursework that you're seeing here, as well as place that you're going to go to, the problems that they're looking to solve are survey, culture, engagement, onboarding, recruiting, top performers, diversity. What you're going to see is nothing new. I think that's the big thing you're going to hear, is not really solving new problems. We're just trying to use a different data sample to maybe predict an outcome before, but not anything new is what you're seeing, just new data science. The other interesting thing about HR and why they started with all of this data, some say it could just be by accident. So the reason why HR has all this data is we need to get a paycheck. We need to pay you. So in order to pay you, what do we need? We need your name, your social, your address. And then we also need a resume so we understand where you were. So now all of that used to be kept in a file cabinet. It wasn't kept to do a big data model. So now it went from a file cabinet to a database. So you have to understand that fundamentally, HR has been sitting on this data, just got lucky. That's it. There's no, it wasn't, and I love Laszlo and the stuff that Google's doing. It wasn't Google decided to do this. They just put the science behind it. So that's the first part. The next thing, the science that are being used in the models, most of it is not new science. So we have a pretty big data science team, Ivy League schools, PhDs, but the math that they're using, it's not new math. So the math, the models that they're using have been used, to help put people on the moon. So again, you're using math that has never been inside of HR, bringing it to HR. So again, this goes back to, as all this is pumping in, there is this obligation that CHROs have to both get the answers that they need quicker, and then more importantly, do something about it. So I think that's one thing I wanted just to kind of bring up. The next thing I wanted to talk about is mobile, and we keep hearing about the gig economy and the impact on the gig economy. So to the 98% of the people that did not raise their hand to be an entrepreneur or being people analytics, just the business side. There is a company named Straight Path. I believe I just wrote it down because let me just make sure it's Straight Path as I mentioned them. So yeah, it's Straight Path. What I really want to talk about Straight Path for a quick second on this is, as you understand the gig economy, and we talk about data, what I want everyone here to understand is there's two types of data. There is the data that we model, and then there is a data plan for your phone, right? So you've got data that you model, then a data plan. So in order for most people to stay competitive and have work, they're going to need a phone and they're going to need a data plan. Right? Why does this kind of come together? So there's a company named Straight Path. This is another stock tip, right? So they were trading maybe like 18 months ago at $38, and then a year ago $38. Then in April they were trading at $138. So 38 to 138, and then from April to May they went from 138 to 255. So I mean, just everyone thinks about Tesla, Google, and all these companies, but why would a company go from 38 to 138 to 205? This company owns the patents to the 5G network, and that is the most important next evolution of mobile. So this sleepy little company, maybe 4 employees, just happen to have the patent to this. So why is Verizon and AT&T in a massive bidding war for the 5G network that just closed, I think. I think they ended up paying $3 billion for it. So you can look up 5G, it's a lot on the internet. 5G is where they're going to be powering drones. 5G is where they're going to be powering all the future of work. So now I'm trying to just bend your thinking to data. Don't just think of data modeling, but think of data plans and think about not just knowledge workforce, but now if you want to be employed, you're going to need a phone and you're going to need a data plan. And then all of that. So there's some of it is understanding location, but just think through where the next 5 years are going to go and how fast innovation is going to come. So you're going to have data, faster data on that side. The next innovation that we're seeing, both in some of our R&D and with some of our customers and stuff, is artificial intelligence, AI. And if you think about what has happened yesterday with Apple and the HomePod and Echo and the Google Home, companies are racing to have this information in their organization. It's not a 10-year away idea. It's there's certain companies, and one you're actually going to be meeting with. I'm not going to tell who because I don't know if they want to tell you what they're working on or not. But I saw your list. But it's out there, So it's the data that you can either talk to and have it come back to you with an answer. You can put it in and have it come back to you with an answer. Those answers, how it's going to get funded, is it if it hits that question, we believe, right? So you don't want to have a small little hack project. You want to have big, meaningful projects. So just make sure if you're going to be playing in the HR space, you really want to tie everything to your CHRO. So I think we've just hit off. So a lot of things that you're seeing about AI, it's definitely, it's hot, it's sexy. We are a people analytics company. We haven't changed our roadmap. We do great data work. In the last 60 days, we've been written up a few times as a great AI company. And you just kind of scratch your head. Like, our roadmap hasn't changed, but the media now feels like AI is a little bit sexier than people analytics, so now we get written up as an AI HR company. But the problems that we're solving are pretty meaningful to the CHRO. The next thing that we're seeing, that maybe everyone here is going to start to see also, is Workday did a great job of putting all their customers' data on the cloud, which is great. A lot of these other companies are following. So keep your eye out on data security. And every time there is a data breach at Target, at Yahoo, it's going to make all the work that we're trying to do here harder. So when we started our company, our first hire was our chief science officer, and we kind of visioned an organization where this chief science officer would sit above the CTO, and I don't have a tech background, but I just felt like we're going to bet everything on data science, and I'd like to have the hierarchy be data science then tech. I also felt like we have a great tech team. I just felt that it'd be a little bit easier to find technology people because there was just a lot more of them. But again, going back 3 years, there were not a lot of data scientists. Let's call it a true data scientist. Data security is really important. Our data security officer was another early hire. When we did our first customers, data security was maybe like a questionnaire. Now, data security, it's always as important, but the level of scrutiny that you need to get through to be a vendor on a company or even use data is intense. Now, has anybody here ever dealt with data security? Right, so you have. You're a data security officer, or you just went through questionnaires on it?
I'm part of the security team at Google.
Yep.
I'm dealing mostly about the engineering side of things, not the sort of regulation.
Yeah, there's the regulation and then the vendor part, the ISOs. So I think, again, if you're gonna play in this space, I think you need to all just have an understanding of data security, at least understand what ISO means and all the different forms of ISO. And if you go into healthcare, they have other type of security. So I think you should kind of brush up on data security. That's going to be quite important. Because as you want to bring in maybe other vendors to kind of help you move faster, it's going to become quite important. All right, so we touched on some cool things going on with mobile. Looking at the bigger trends like you're seeing with Echo, I think that's all important. Data security, that's going to be important. As far as wearable, haven't seen that much yet as far as wearable. There's a few companies doing badging and stuff like that and tying that data back. We haven't seen like anything big like that yet on wearable that you guys should keep your eyes out on. And the reason why I'm kind of hitting these bigger themes is that it's hard not to be in this town and not bump into someone who's working on something or read an article about it. And I think that's quite important. And then healthcare is starting to really be important as companies are starting to look at wellness. So these are all, again, important obligations, right, to this CHRO, right? Keep employees engaged, keep them happy, keep them healthy, and just keep them, right? Because right now, some tech firms, the average time they're going to stay at a company is just over a year. So that's not a long time. Some companies, it's 3 years. We work with large enterprise companies. Some are tech, been around for 5 years. Some are pharmaceutical, been around 50 years. These companies now no longer do 5+ year succession planning, meaning they won't even look to put anyone on a plan past 5 years. It's very low probability that you're going to stay past 5 years. So all of this is because everything is out there and you can move quite easily, and an acceptance of it. So it's great that you can increase your wealth. It's great that you can move around. And what's also great is I believe it's great that companies understand that now and will just enjoy the little time they have with you, because I don't think we see a lot of people staying at their company past 5 years. I mean, you might have 2 different roles, but we've not seen a lot of people stay a lot longer in multiple sectors. So yeah, I just want to kind of talk to you about some things that we're seeing. I think that kind of hits a lot of the big topics. I think the biggest thing that we're thrilled that there are classes like this that are really talking about HR as more of a data-centric HR. And probably the reason why there are so many companies that are still afraid to do some HR data work is because at the end of the day, it's still about a person, right? So if we use Google as an example, showed you the data of a red button and a green button, and everyone clicked on the green button, you would say, okay, kill the red button, let's go with the green button. And we wouldn't think twice about it. We wouldn't have an off-site meeting to talk through it. The data says everyone clicks on the green button, let's kill the red button. Well, it's a little bit different when the green button is Zach and the red button is Kelsey, right? And the data is there to show, but it just gets complicated. So that's kind of, there's a big trust, but I think that's really when you start humanizing it. Let's say perfect case scenario, you have all the data and you can make everything, right? Like that's what's proven. So with that, what I thought it would just be is just, yeah, hit me with as many questions we see, and I speak a lot and I see a lot of things, so.
So last year you were telling us some of the things that HiQ Labs was helping companies with, and one of the solutions had to do with retention. And so a lot of the folks in marketing understand churn modeling and attrition modeling, and in the world of HR,
Yep.
you can use almost the same kind of modeling, right, to estimate employee
Yep.
lifetime value and do mortality
Yep.
tables and so forth and so on. So how can you help companies with that, and what sorts of data do you need in order to do really good modeling in that area?
So a few things. First, with the modeling and the type of models, one of the first, we didn't do it at our company, but we knew the team that did it years before on internal data. They used a math probability that is the same probability. This is a younger class, but you'd understand this. Some of GE used to make light bulbs, and in these light bulbs they had a filament, and in the filament you'd buy these little light bulbs in this little box, and on the box it would say these would last for 100 hours. Right? These would last for 200. Your parents would understand that. Now with the new light bulbs, they last for years. Right? How does GE understand when a light bulb is going to die? Right? How do they know when that filament? Do they test every light bulb to know it's 100 hours? No, they use a specific math model that looks at the probability. And that is the original model that was used for employee risk of when will that employee die off, right? So when will that light bulb go dark? And what was used for that is manager, time and role, and then as it got more sophisticated, their location, their commute. As it gets more sophisticated, coworkers leaving, impact of stock price, impact of vesting. And you can start seeing how all of these things start coming together. The CHR knows all this. Right? There's nothing in there that's new. Nothing I gave you is new or confidential. It's all the data that's in there. Now you have, the world has changed, and now you have external factors, right? What is the impact of stock price? What is the impact of Glassdoor? What is the impact of having a profile versus not having a profile? I mean, there's all of these factors that get kind of put into models now because there was a time where you couldn't just be found, right? You were just a back office accountant, right? Like, is it no or no-y? No? No-y? So no, your title, what is your exact job title? Like,
Senior staff software engineer.
right, senior staff software engineer, right? No reason for him to have a business card, right? He's not forward, you're not client facing. Right? There's no reason why I should be able to find you in 30 seconds and be able to reach out to you, right? Now, who should have a business card, right? And higher level stuff, right? Salespeople, right? They're always out there in sales, right? An HR person. So when you start looking at this obligation for the CHRO, and I mean, if you really start looking at the organization as a CHRO, who in my organization is external facing because we need them to be external facing to hit our stock price? Who is internal facing that is a windowless office that never needs to be outside that windowless office, right? But if that software engineer leaves, we're impacted, right? So we need to kind of really model all this and try to figure all this out and understand how people can be found and all these other things, and then understand, are you engaged, or what do we need to do to get you engaged now? Now with that, that's pretty easy when I know no-y. Right, it's just picking on today. And then you just add distance, right? So you have a 5-person company. Well, I know everybody. You have a 15-person company. I know everybody. I have a 50-person company, 2 locations, distance. I have 500 people, distance between HR person, HR manager person. You just don't know everyone's birthdays at 50. You don't know when everyone's having a good or bad day, right? So So I think that kind of is a long way of saying about all the new data that's coming in, but why that data is important on that stuff. And for where we are now at our organization, what we just launched is new skill taxonomy. So now that people are generating their own definition of their job titles, it's now impacting how people recruit. So what is a new skill? What is a data scientist? What is a data scientist type stuff? What is cybersecurity? So these are big questions that companies need to staff around. So we look now at just how people represent themselves and put together a big skill cluster, and trying to help companies understand their skill of their organization using new skill clusters. Because it's so interesting when people tell me, oh, we call our engineers bodyguards. That's what we call our engineers. I'm like, I don't care what you call them. That's not how they identify with them outside your organization. Like, I've not seen a job posting on Indeed for software bodyguard. Send me your resume. I'm like, call them whatever you want. That's not who they think they are, and that's how they're going to get recruited out. So, any other questions?
A question: when you do some A/B testing with the companies, can you describe a little bit how you pick your samples, and do you do this across companies? So you use a guinea pig company, or
yeah.
How does that work?
So on our data sets, what we've done is we put together multiple different data sets. Some of it is based on sector. Some of it is based on skill set. And then, so that's our overarching data set. We just kind of put that and, let's call that in a box. And then we work with customers in those sectors so we can understand how we can look at them versus sector. Right, so that's for us been the best way to kind of validate us for sector. Right, so, and I think it also helps with, as we kind of learn how different sectors move differently, location, sectors. I think this is all good data for us because we just are curious and we just want to understand it. And then we want to look back at it and then improve it. So that's how we think about it. Erin.
Can you talk about the methods or recommendations you have for improving? So you mentioned that you can look at the probability an employee's going to leave, which is great, but then what? What do you do? And does your company do recommendations on those features that you mentioned and how to improve those?
Yeah, that's great. And now, just so Erin, just left indicate, you're with which company?
Sales management at Twitter.
At Twitter. So I think there's a few ways that we look at it. I think it's the right question. There's some of our customers just want the data. Just give me the feed of the data. Let me look to see what it is. And others are saying, I would like to know what to do. Right. So what we found is a lot of the things to do to retain or help are widely studied and published. It's just how to sequence them in the right order. So a lot of the stuff that we do is if we see certain signals, it just might lead to still a stay interview. It might lead to performance. It might lead to pay. We don't know. But all of the recommendations, again, there's not a lot of new recommendations. I think it's just the time you have to get to that recommendation and the list to pick list. So, and the reason why Twitter has a great people analytics team, and I know them quite well. So again, some of it is just company specific. And I think Erin asked a great question because it's also about the company we want to be, right? Do we as a company want to be a data company and just give you the insight? Or do we have to give you the insight and the action? All right, so I think we're seeing it company to company. Lauren.
Do you have advice to people teams who don't have the budget to go with IQ and don't have people staff with analytical backgrounds?
Yeah. And Lauren, which company are you with?
Or for Admiral, I'm on people operations.
Yeah. It's a tough one. When we started, we looked at it as, Google had maybe at the time 30 plus PhDs looking at people, and we were like, well, no, not a lot of companies are going to hire 30, right? So we wanted to go with enterprise that we're going to hire like a few, right? That then we can help fill in the gaps. The companies that don't have like the data science stuff, I think your best bet is, fingers crossed you have a system, whether it be Workday, Taleo. So if you have that system comes inside of it with analytics. The problem with that analytics is that if your employees don't keep their information current, like the analytics won't spit out anything good. So if you have a system that you already paid for and you're not going to have a big data team, do everything you can to get your employees to keep that information current in the system, because then you could generate it. That's one. And the second thing to do is go on LinkedIn and update your profile to say that you, as an HR person, like to use emerging technologies and stuff like that, and cold call as many startups as possible. They would love to do free work to get a customer. So if if I'm you, that's what I do. If you want to if you want to do a survey, I just pick up a phone, and whoever's doing surveys, I'd be like, hi, I'll give you our client, our employees, build a survey for us. We have no money, but we'll be a reference, right? For us, we told our customers they had to pay, but that's just how we wanted to do it. But I think that's a good way, how I would recommend you do it, especially. And honestly, I would tell that, I just spoke at another conference, I told that to other people. Like everyone here, even the guys at Google, Twitter, whoever it's going to be, you should be calling. And there's so many startups here that are just doing some great stuff, great pedigreed people that left their jobs that will absolutely do very reduced work just to prove a point of view. And if it fails, right, they'll have, I don't know why it would fail, but there could be many reasons for it. TJ.
So my question, just going back to this customer lifetime value or the employee lifetime value. I mean, one important factor is obviously the churn rate and the retention of the employment. Another important factor is the contribution margin, right?
Yep.
How much they're actually contributing to the company as a whole.
Yep.
Right. Have you guys looked at helping companies segment their employees into star performers and their contribution margin, like $5 million or versus others who are on the lower scale or something? Or,
TJ, now what company do you work?
I'm a product manager at Amazon.
At Amazon, right? So Amazon, Google, the companies that we talked about, even Twitter. Those HR already knows. They already know their top performers. They've studied them. Most of the time, that's all the people they care about are the 400 people they can't afford to lose. So Amazon, a big company, there's probably maybe there's 1,000 people they can't lose. Right? Google, I don't know, maybe there's 400 people they can't. I mean, these are people they cannot afford to lose. And unfortunately, that's how enterprise works. You've got the top performers, all the attention, all the data science, all the visibility. You've got average performers, and then you got everybody else, right? I think there's a lot of people in the average that could be more valuable. But yeah, every company we know with already has a very good feel for the project, the skill set, the person, the team, what they want to do. And they now layer one other piece to that is diversity. So some of these companies now want to know like the top 100 diversity members that they can't afford to lose. And it's not so much of the value, but it's the value, and it's just the CHRO goes into the boardroom. And when the CHRO reports attrition numbers, they're not going to talk about the specific barista that left. They're going to talk about, the minority person who also ran a division that was pulled to go to Twitter, and they're going to be like, how do we lose the head of that person? Why did we lose him? Did you know? Did you not know? How are we going to replace him? Who else is going to follow him or her? Like, that's that CHRO, and then that CHRO has to come down and have to answer it, right? So the CHRO is going to come off the mountain and they're going to call Lauren. Lauren, I just came out of the board meeting. Our next board meeting is in 90 days. Do we know the risk of the rest of our diversity population? It's not a great meeting that we lost this. How did we lose them? I thought they were happy. So then when you start talking about loss, I don't know if this helps or not helps, but this is like what happens at the boardroom is at the bigger companies, should we buy the company that we just lost the person to, right? How many other engineers did they take? It's a 20-person operation. They took a few of our engineers. Should we buy them? Should we care? I don't know. You know who's answering? They don't ask. They ask that to the CHRO and the business, maybe the head of sales or the head of product who's in the board meeting.
There's some studies that show that internal recruiting is often under-resourced relative to external recruiting. Is your skill mapper solution something which can help companies figure out how to manage their internal talent, grow their internal talent?
It's the right question. It's not so much under. It's an interesting word. It's more of going back to what I said with Lauren. There's a rec. There's a job rec that goes to the recruiter to find. Right. That's pretty straightforward. Again, not new. This is not new science. So the recruiter, if they go into Taleo, if they go into Workday, and an employee is not current in that information, the internal recruiter just can't get to that person, so they'll just go externally. So our skills, and it's not just about our skills, but I mean, I think we're doing a great job with skills, but a lot of companies now are trying to help with models to help companies understand their skills so that the recruiter can truly look internally first, then go to their applicant. Internal first, let's call it employee directory first. Second, applicant tracking system of who applied. Third, external population. So skills helps us help companies understand the skills they have. Well published, Google has the algorithm that looks at resumes that come in. The other thing everyone should look at is the space. It's not just Google, but Google's actually doing a lot more stuff now with Google Jobs. So everyone should kind of brush up on how Google is coming into the HR space with their Jobs API and their search. But again, if Lauren can't solve the problem of having her employees update some information, Lauren to the world can't do the internal recruiting, because it's going to be a pain in the ass. Lauren has 50 recs, and she's not going to want to sit here and try to find everyone in their organization. It's just...
So, it's funny, here at Berkeley, I haven't been asked to update my faculty profile since 2004.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, and it's a problem. It is a problem. Cool. Any other picture? Cool. Any other questions? Hey, Manju. And what question and company?
Nevada Department of Transportation. I work for the state government. So in your title, you had obligation to employees and
and shareholders.
And shareholders. Do you see a divergence? I mean, do you believe there's a divergence at some point in some scenario, or have you seen any?
Yeah,
example?
I think those are the two bosses. I think it's really important. I think a lot of times they talk about the employee value, the shareholder value, but Wall Street, they're going to beat you up pretty good, right? So how do you maximize the earnings and also keep your employees engaged? I mean, not everybody is Tesla or that other stock I told you about. Works tough, works hard. So I believe there's two bosses. And Wall Street has more data, and they look at it every which way, and I just think that CHROs are starting to look at that. And that's how we see it.
Last question.
Hey, Travis, question and company.
Yeah.
So a company, California State Teachers Retirement System.
California Safety?
California State Teachers Retirement
Oh,
System.
state.
It's a big picture. So our turnover is extremely low for investments, less than 4%, including retirement.
Yep.
And so do you have any takeaways from this, things that you've seen from companies that have extremely low turnover?
Yeah. It's good and bad from what we've seen. The ones that we see that are bad, where are you based?
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Yeah, so I mean, it just the first, it's not just you, but like the bad that we see when it's low turnover is just like no fresh ideas and just your diversity numbers suck, right? Because no one leaves and you can't bring in the diverse person and the diverse thinking. So I think that's the big challenge. And then, on a just a personal note, like just how I'm wired down in this part of California, it just blows my mind that people don't want to leave. There are so many great things going on at other companies and such great innovation. I'd just be curious. Like, I would almost, as you study career pathing, there's a sweet spot for you to your next employer, and like, is your next employer going to be really excited to hire someone who's been at their same job for 7 years? Like, I don't think. My point of view is I don't know. Like, it's not as bad as every year moving, but I just think there's so much great stuff going out there, especially in this zip code, area code. I don't know why anyone would want to stay long.
Yeah, I did work for a French company where their problem wasn't people were leaving, but the people were killing themselves. So people were actually committing suicide rather than leaving because there were no jobs and their current jobs sucked. So the only way out was to kill themselves.
Great.
Well, thank you, Darren. Thanks so much. That's a retention issue that we want to thank you by giving you a notebook to replace your HiQ Labs notebook. This is a Berkeley Haas notebook.
This is wonderful.
And a pen to go with it.
That's great.
So,
and can I get a quick picture with you when everybody's done?
Sure. Yeah, we can do it right now.
Okay, is that all right? That's a quick picture.
With the class, you mean?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a quick. This I'll post on my LinkedIn feed. And I'll say,
okay. You want us to get a picture of you up here on the...
So I just don't want to impose.
Yeah.
Let's go see. I'll take it. I'll take it over here with this guys. Right. Maybe everybody say thumbs up. I don't know.
We turn the oh wait, that's not working.
Hope everybody liked it.
There we go.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Okay, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's well.
That's about right.
So I go to the one before that.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's perfect. I'll post the thing.
Great.
I got
Okay.
thumbs up.
So I'm going to run over and do a quick interview with Darren, but we're all going to have, anybody who's interested, we're all going to go have lunch over in the faculty club with Peter Weiss, who is the CIO at Matson. And we're going to have an informal chat about kind of the new workforce, right? How difficult is it to attract, retain, and get the most out of tech talent? And Peter's written some really cool stuff. He blogs a lot. He's got a great article on, how do you get the IT, in particular IT workforce, to be transformed for the new workplace and the new environment. So everybody wants to go. We're all going to head over to the faculty club. I'm going to just make a quick detour with Darren, and I'll meet you over there. Okay. And so the